Sanibonani, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing, why does it matter whether Jesus is God or not? Now, earlier we made a video where we discovered whether Jesus Christ was God or not. The summary is that he isn't God. He's a separate person. However, at this point, one question still remains. Does it matter? Isn't it just scholarly debate? If I'm still worshipping a higher being and following his laws, should I care about his exact identity? Well, yes. This question matters because if Jesus Christ was God, then many of the ways God and Jesus are described in the Bible wouldn't make sense. First, let's look at God. He's mightier than everyone else. As it was said in Isaiah, I have sworn by myself, the word is gone out of my mouth in righteousness, and shall not return, that unto me every knee shall bow, every tongue shall swear. Isaiah chapter 45 verse 23. We can also look at Malachi chapter 1 verse 6. If Jesus was God, then there would be another entity on his level, so he wouldn't really be all that mighty in comparison. Plus, because of this position, God is able to justify people worshipping him, like Hezekiah did in 2 Kings chapter 19 verse 15 and the psalmist did in Psalms chapter 86 verse 10. If there was someone else like him, then he wouldn't be able to monopolize our worship, but because he is the only true God, we are required to show him some respect. Also, Yahweh's role as a creator is diminished when we say that Jesus Christ is God. Jehovah is the one who created the world and no one else. As it was said in Isaiah, I have made the earth and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their host have I commanded. Isaiah chapter 45 verse 12. We can also look at Psalms chapter 104 verse 30. It's true that Jesus has had a hand in making everything happen. As St. Paul said, for by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. Colossians chapter 1 verse 16. However, the word by doesn't have to mean Jesus was the creator. I can create a simple house by carving stones out of mountains, but that doesn't mean the stones created the house. I just used them to build the house, just like God used Jesus to create the world. Jesus in this context is a process, just like in John chapter 1 verse 1, he was the Word. That's why Colossians chapter 1 verse 16 in the New International Version says that things were created through him instead. Speaking of Jesus, let's look at how our perception of Christ changes when we decide to put him on God's level. Let's just ignore the fact that Jesus himself told us that his Father is greater than him in John chapter 14 verse 28, and that he refused to be equated with God in Luke chapter 18 verses 18 to 19. One problem with putting Jesus on God's level is that him being humble doesn't make sense. Jesus showed meekness when fulfilling God's will. As it was said in John, I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. John chapter 5 verse 30. It was Jesus' humility that allowed him to deal with the Pharisees in verses like Matthew chapter 9 verse 34 and Luke chapter 4 verses 27 to 30 without wiping them out. Would God allow people to grab him and try to throw him off a cliff? Of course not. When the Philistines wanted to bring his ark to their land in 1 Samuel chapter 5, he destroyed their idol and killed a bunch of them. Just imagine how much more he would do if people tried to kill him. Also, equating Jesus with God diminishes how much Jesus suffered when he was on earth. He hungered in Matthew chapter 4 verses 1 to 11. He was very poor, or else he wouldn't have told a rich man to sell everything he had to join him in Luke chapter 18 verse 22. God wouldn't have suffered like that. He's never needed to eat, and he owns everything, according to Exodus chapter 19 verse 5, so he can't be poor. There wouldn't be a point in God going through what Jesus went through because nothing would change, according to Malachi chapter 3 verse 6. However, as a human, Jesus could learn many things. As the author of Hebrews said, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8. Therefore, my advice is that we should always check the Bible carefully to make sure our opinions on it are correct. Proper knowledge of God and His Son is not something we can neglect or ignore, because if we don't understand how they act, we won't understand how we should act. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Why does it matter whether Jesus is God or not? It matters because the answer to this question determines how we actually see God and Jesus. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.